All right, let's just jump right in. We've all heard those stories, right? Maybe you've even dreamed of it yourself. That one trip, the one that just changes everything. A journey so big, it completely redraws the map of your life. But is that real? Or is it just, something we see in the movies? Well, it turns out it's not just a movie trope. Not at all. This is actually a real psychological thing that researchers have been digging into for decades. And yeah, the idea that travel can be the spark for some really deep, irreversible change, it's totally backed by research.
So you gotta wonder, what do they actually call this thing? This huge shift that can happen when you're out on the road? Because let's be honest, it's way more than just coming home with a tan and a few souvenirs.
They call it a transformative experience, or just TE for short. And there was this huge review of tourism research in 2023 that basically defined it as this. It's a moment that sparks these really deep changes in your attitudes, your views, even your behavior. And the key part is, these changes start on the trip, but, and this is super important, they keep going long after you've unpacked your bags.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. How do these things even start? Because get this, a life-changing journey is almost never what people are looking for when they book a plane ticket.
So researchers sat down and talked with tons of people who'd had these transformative trips, and a really surprising pattern popped up. Every single one of them started their journey for totally normal reasons. Nobody was out there looking for some big epiphany. Nope. They were just, following their favorite soccer team, or hiking a famous trail, or taking a gap year. The whole transformation thing, it was a total accident. And get this, the transformation isn't some slow burn that happens over weeks and weeks of travel. Not at all. It's more like a lightning strike. It's ignited by what the researchers call a triggering episode. Just one single, spontaneous, and usually completely unexpected moment that just flips a switch and forces you to see things in a whole new way. Erica's story is the perfect example of this. So she's backpacking through Australia for 90 days, right? Doing all the crazy, thrill-seeking stuff, bungee jumping, you name it. But her big aha moment, that trigger, it wasn't some epic view from a mountaintop. It was just a normal evening, watching a movie with a friend. And in that super quiet, totally ordinary moment, the contrast with all that adrenaline junkie travel just hit her. She realized what she really valued wasn't the excitement, it was deep personal connection. So you might be wondering, where do these powerful moments tend to happen? Well, the research points to something called alternative tourism. In fact, over half of these transformative experiences happen on trips like volunteer work, long-term study abroad, or maybe some challenging eco tour. And when you think about it, that makes a ton of sense, right? These are the kinds of trips that often last longer, throw more unexpected curveballs your way, and really immerse you in the local culture. It's basically the perfect recipe for one of these life-altering triggers to happen. Okay, so you've had this incredible, mind-blowing experience. You get home, you're practically glowing with this new perspective, and you can't wait to tell everybody about it. But, and this is a big but, the research shows this is often when the hardest part of the entire journey actually begins. Yeah, researchers have a name for this tough phase you go through after the trip. They call it existential angst. And really, it's that jarring, super unsettling feeling you get when the new you, the one that was forged out there on the road, suddenly clashes with the old world you left behind. All your new values are suddenly fighting with everything that used to feel totally normal. You think coming home is going to be all comfort and familiarity, a place where you can share your stories. But for someone who's gone through this, it can feel incredibly alienating. The world didn't change while you were gone, but you did. And that gap, wow, it can make you feel like a total outsider in your own life. Subin's story just nails this whole idea. She saw this really horrifying festival in Thailand, and it moved her so much that she became a vegetarian right then and there. But when she got back home to South Korea, this new core belief became a huge problem. Her coworkers would constantly give her a hard time about it during meals. It created all this conflict and made her super uncomfortable. But what's amazing is, as you can see in her quote, it didn't break her. It actually strengthened her resolve. It forged this new sense of who she was. So, how does all that uncomfortable angst actually lead to real, lasting change? Well, it becomes the fuel for the fire. That tension, that pull between the person you were and the person you've become, that's the very thing that forces a real, deliberate transformation to happen. Instead of just throwing in the towel and going back to their old ways, people are forced to face this dilemma head on. And the research shows this really clear pattern. First, that internal struggle makes them reevaluate, well, pretty much everything. That leads to a conscious choice, a decision to live differently. And that decision is what gives them the motivation to start making real, meaningful changes in their everyday life. And when you look at all the studies, these changes pretty much fall into four big categories, and they touch every single part of a person's life. First, there's the psychological stuff, new perspectives, more self-awareness. Then there's the social side. Your relationships can change. You might feel a greater sense of responsibility. Then you've got the physical and behavioral changes. We're talking new lifestyles, new careers, the works. And finally, a lot of people find a deeper spiritual connection or a totally new sense of meaning in life. And listen, we are not talking about small tweaks here. The research is just full of these incredible stories of people completely upending their lives. There was one guy who quit his stable job to work in a restaurant, also he could have the flexibility to travel more. Another woman, after a trip to Bolivia, went and got a whole new graduate degree in sustainable agriculture because of what she saw there. I mean, these are huge, life-altering decisions we're talking about.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? What should you be thinking about for your next trip?
Here's the bottom line. The trip itself, that's just the raw material. The triggering moment, the new experiences, the challenges. Believe it or not, that's the easy part. The real work, the stuff that makes the transformation stick, that happens when you get home. It's in that tough process of figuring out what it all means and weaving what you've learned into the very fabric of your life. So in the end, it seems like the true potential of travel isn't just about escaping our day-to-day. It's about creating a space to really think about our lives and maybe become the person we're supposed to be. Your travels give you stories, they give you memories, for sure. But the real power, that lies in the meaning you choose to build from them. So the real question is, what are you going to build?